we can get started. I have it recording already.
Alright. Oh goodness, it's been a while since I've looked at canine anatomy. I guess we can go over that later.
Okay. A dog's heart is the size of its brain.
This is what we're going to go over soon, Alicia. I'm sure you could read that. Oh, look, brisket. Brisket. Right there.
That's so sad. I didn't want to know a dog had brisket.
Now you know that a dog can't have a brisket.
I actually didn't even know brisket was there. I thought it was like...
Apparently, this is a more detailed version of a dog anatomy chart than the one that I actually saw the first time around. So, brisket apparently was added way after the fact to go along with the ruff. Pretty much everything else.
What's a ruff?
That's a ruff right there.
I thought that was a scruff.
They call it a ruff.
I thought it was a scruff.
Maybe scruff on a cat. By the way, fun fact according to ABC, most flea-infested dogs have cat fleas, not dog fleas.
There's a difference?
Apparently there is.
So does that mean dogs can't get cat fleas and cats can't get dog fleas?
Something like that. Isn't that horrible?
A little bit. That's good to know, because then that means... No way, because when I had Annie, and Annie got fleas, Lusa got fleas. So...
I don't know. I'm just reading whatever it says on here.
Because...
Maybe you had both.
Maybe, but I doubt it, because my poor little... Now, it was our yard was infested with fleas, because we had skunks. And I'm sure they brought the fleas. And...
Well, hang on. Maybe the cat fleas are what both of them got.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, we may be reading this wrong. It does say flea infested. So maybe the dog fleas are the ones that just kind of come on and hop on them and then jump off.
Okay.
Whereas the cat fleas hang around and stay on there until they basically create a colony.
So does that mean most dogs, when they have fleas and you see them on them, those are cat fleas? Or
If there are a lot of them, maybe.
Okay. Because I've seen, you see stray dogs, like the ones that I have in my yard. And they have
Well, you did say you saw a skunk.
Yes.
So
it was a family of skunks.
Okay, family of skunks.
Like 5 babies and the mama.
And so if you have a family of skunk, they're close enough to cats, right? So you would think that they have the same fleas.
Maybe I'll have to look at their tree. But, okay. I guess that makes sense.
Well, anyway, what I actually reviewed earlier before I got here was stuff on nutrition. Pretty much something that's up all of our alleys. Might as well just go over some of that while we're still here.
Okay. It's not up my alley, but okay.
Well, I think you remember enough to know what to look for in a dog food, right?
No wheat. No corn, no wheat-based foods. As in, you don't want that to be the first ingredient.
Right.
And then ideally you want it to be a protein.
Mm-hmm.
Not a byproduct and not a meal, though there is a difference depending on some certain situations, right? No?
Well, they're just two different things. Well, the meal is a different form of the actual animal, but there could be some benefits to it.
Okay.
Either way, don't be fooled by the whole byproduct thing, because there's actually more to it than they always say.
What do you mean by that?
So think about what a byproduct is. It's something that actually comes from the animal as a result of you butchering the animal. So you normally, go for meats, right? That's actually like your primary thing to grab off of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to the rest of the carcass? It's not like they throw it out.
So the byproducts are the organs and the hooves and the teeth.
Well, yeah, there are certain
bones.
byproducts that you might say, and then there are other byproducts that are actually very valuable.
Because I've read, not read. I've heard that cats do better with byproduct meats
It's
or
probably
whatever.
because they just sit there and eat the stomach all day.
Oh.
Stomachs and throats. Yeah, that's probably their main point of attack. But then again, wolves do that too.
Okay.
Well, there are probably certain, vitamins and minerals that come off of those that a cat will probably need more of. I think it's arginine that they can't really live without for more than 24 hours, or else they get very sick.
What was that again?
Amino acid,
Okay.
arginine.
Okay, I was I was like, is that a mineral?
Well, no, I just segued on you like really quickly.
Okay. So this is for cats though.
Yes, because dogs can actually do better with them. In fact, I think that with dogs there are 10 essential amino acids. Don't ask me to list them. Whereas I think with cats there may be 11.
And that's the taurine. Is it taurine?
Taurine.
That's the one
Yeah,
that dogs can't eat, right?
No, dogs can. They actually make it themselves, whereas
Oh.
cats probably need it.
I thought there was one that dogs can't eat, which is why they don't recommend they eat dog or cat food.
It may be in excess of whatever that is.
Okay. Because I could have swore that was the reason why you don't want to feed dogs cat food, because of this specific thing in their formulas that dogs shouldn't eat because it's bad for them, while a cat, it's an essential thing. That's all I remember from cat nutrition,
It's most
by the way.
it's probably most likely in excess, because essential amino acids just simply means that it's something that has to be taken from somebody else.
Okay. Yes.
Now, of course, there are plant amino acids that don't really. I mean, plants also do have amino acids that dogs should have on some level. The problem is that if you only subsist on plant amino acids, your dog is going to feel pretty darn lousy. They need other things.
So, okay, but what about the example with Bella right now? She was eating a plant right now.
If that's the only thing that she eats, then maybe that might be a problem.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, okay, what about these whole vegan people that are going
technically
vegan?
You may be able to stick your dog on a vegan diet. No, he's not going to be very happy or maybe even that healthy, but he can still live. Cats will die.
Okay. Yes. But you shouldn't do veganism for a dog. Like you would say.
If you love your dog, don't do it.
Okay. Because I've read an article maybe about a week ago about these vegan people feeding their dogs these puppies a vegan diet, and the poor things were just
malnutrition, probably stunted, probably don't have very good brain development. Because you can't get those good things off of it. By the way, yes, you can actually get amino acids. I mean, not amino acids. You can actually get your important fatty acids off of plants. But here's the little deal about that. It doesn't work the same in an animal if you actually take it off of a plant than if you actually got it from a dog. Think about it, like people talk about flax seeds and stuff like that. I mean, humans actually do have the ability to take it in just fine. But if you gave it to a dog, not gonna work.
Okay.
So that's why they have to actually get it from a living, animal. Or actually a dead animal.
I was gonna say, not a
living
one.
Get it from the fresh animal there.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, by the way, I actually read an article about, having sea-safe sea-safe, sea-protective You know, amino. Sorry, I'm trying to actually get my word correct here. Omega-3s. Okay, there you go.
So, that's what we were talking about the other day, right?
Mhm.
Where it's not necessarily all fish based.
Yeah, because if you think about where the fish gets it from.
Where is it from plankton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's photos and that's photo blah blah blah. That's a plant.
That's plantish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I don't.
Okay, I see what you mean. I think. I feel like I'm in science class right now.
You are in science class.
Um.
Yeah, I mean, I think in certain areas you can. I mean, it'll be more digestible than in others. I mean, you know, if you think about all your fish, I mean, where do your fish come from the sea? Where do your phytoplankton come from? The sea.
Yeah.
So there's actually minerals in there that actually make it easier, I think, for the amino acids to, not amino acids, omega-3s to actually do their work. By the way, we will actually have a discussion between the omega-3s and the omega-6s in just a second too.
Yeah, because my go-to for omega-3 was salmon and salmon oil and salmon-based foods for my dogs, which is what I used to give them. Well, Annie would eat kangaroo. That's a special protein or whatever.
Only because kangaroos are pests in Australia.
But I would give Scarlett, when I had her, salmon-based or salmon protein food, which was the Merrick, plus the salmon oil with the omega-3 that I'll put on top of the food, and pumpkin for digestion, just to kind of help her with that.
Which actually brings us to some more stuff on salmon. You know, they always say that salmon's really good for omega-3s, and there's no debate about that. The problem with salmon is that they're big, and because it takes a long time to actually get to that size, they also pick up on a lot of mercury.
Okay.
So pretty much the bigger your fish, the more mercury you're bound to actually have in your body.
So then you should go for like sardines and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's why I have sardines all over the house. My house.
You have sardines?
I have sardines.
Like canned?
Canned sardines. No, I don't actually own sardines like that.
I was gonna say, like, you have.
Although that would be interesting if I did, right?
I mean, I play Animal Crossing, and you can get the statue of the sardines. So I thought that's what you were talking about. You just have little statues of sardines all over your house.
No sardine statues here. No, we're talking about actual canned sardines. Although I'm sure that at some point I'm going to find a fresh sardine somewhere. But anyway, not the point. Yeah, sardines are actually good sources for omega-3, and they tend to be perfect sizes if you're actually looking for a fish. But you can also do krills, which are even smaller. And if you wanted to go even smaller than that, then you also go with your phytoplankton. So,
how do you process plankton? They're like,
I'm sure that there's some sort of weird filtration
seaweed?
system.
Probably no.
Well,
seaweed is something
kelp,
different.
Kelp is also kelp also does have a lot of iodine in it, which I think I should eat more kelp, honestly. Anybody who's got some sort of weird metabolism issue, you need your iodine.
I eat kale. That's part of the kelp family, right? No, it's not.
I'll have to look that up because I've never heard that one before.
I was just kidding. I have no idea.
Well, I'm sure that kale has its little values in the fact that it's a little bit like spinach and it has like the iron and all that stuff.
I thought kale
wait
wasn't as
maybe not as much
nutritional.
I think the whole problem with kale is that while everybody's like in love with kale, you can't always get all the nutrients that are stuck in it. That's also the case sometimes with spinach too. I'm trying to actually think.
Well, I thought that the more compressed and dense the head of whatever, which includes the lettuce, kale, and the what's the other one? Cabbage. I thought that meant it was less in nutritional value because it holds or retains so much water. Right? No?
Well, I don't know the specific biology of these things, but it is possible.
Okay. Like I know but see it's not for all like leafy greens, I guess, because I know like romaine lettuce is supposed to be more nutritious than let's say iceberg lettuce, right? I think.
Probably because it's greener.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. But don't quote me on this. I'm not a
Okay.
nutritionist. You are.
At least not yet. But anyway, yeah. You know, knowing these little things can actually be very helpful to your overall training because, you know, we actually had talked about the brain-gut connection. And of course, if you have the correct prebiotics to actually feed your probiotics, then you're actually going to have a much better system going on for your dog. Now, they did actually mention somewhere in the last parts that I read something about the protein content that you should actually have for your dog. I do believe that there are two numbers that you should look at, 18 for adults and 25 for the babies.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so see, my understanding was, okay, this is how I view protein concentration or content or whatever inside of the bags of dog food. I thought it was the higher the protein value, the better it was for the dog. So like,
well, I'm going to tell you exactly why I quoted those numbers, though.
Because I know like you can get certain brands of dog food that do like almost 40% protein and everything else is, you know.
Well, I think on specific dogs they'll actually work just fine, but then
Okay.
there are other dogs that probably shouldn't even go there. For instance, you know, basically there's some proteins that actually do less to, I guess, release the serotonin in your dog than others. So I think the meatier the content is for these guys, for some reason, you don't actually get the serotonin that you need. I mean, all meats actually have tryptophan, so that's also kind of like a precursor to actually building up serotonin or some sort of or any type of neurotransmitter that actually, you know, calms the dog down. My gosh, I'm clearing my throat like my dad.
Do you wanna?
No, I'm just going. Now, this is actually a matter of just me clearing out my throat so well that I can actually talk correctly. Clearly, this must be genetic because my dad does this all the time whenever he has to talk.
It's okay, I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from my father as well, so.
Maybe that'll work. Okay, but anyway, yeah, supposedly the more protein that you actually get from these meats, apparently it's actually not going to do very well for dogs who have aggressive or very, very shy tendencies or very unconfident tendencies.
And why is that?
Once again, it has something to do with the ability to, I guess, convert certain. Well, I think it might actually also have something to do with the amount of tryptophan that's in there.
Okay, and what is tryptophan?
Tryptophan is an amino acid.
But, okay, what's an amino? I'm just I know what an amino acid
Building block for protein. There.
No, but okay, but like, what does it do exactly? Like, what does it target specifically, or?
Well,
I think you said the brain, emotion.
All of these neurotransmitters will actually affect all parts of the nervous system, which also does include the brain.
Okay.
And so, pretty much the mind-gut connection, you have whatever you feed in your tummy, if it goes through your bloodstream correctly, then it'll actually serve to build the neurotransmitters that you need to bathe your head in calm. Dopamine, serotonin,
okay.
all that good stuff. GABA.
Gamma.
GABA.
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 Okay.
Everything that you need to calm a dog down. But once again, tryptophan is considered a building block. It is actually not the neurotransmitter itself, but it is actually needed to, I believe, convert to serotonin once it actually gets to the proper part of your body.
Okay.
And by the way, some of our dogs are very deficient in serotonin, which is why you see some of the crazy stuff that you see in our classes. That's why I always, tell them to really work on their nutrition. Now, I know that ABC says that there's actually limited information on that, but believe it or not, whatever they're saying right now, I don't think they've actually updated their material in like a few years.
Well, all of that information is very similar to the human, like it's almost the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They literally say your stomach is what controls you.
Yep.
Not your brain. And so, I mean, and that makes sense because all the bacteria and stuff that lives in there is what makes you feel how you feel, right? And so I guess, I mean, that's what I'm comparing it to because I have no idea when it comes to the dogs. But
yeah.
I do understand the human side of it.
Okay. Sorry, Sky is actually still researching the differences between collars and harnesses, which is good.
Okay.
She should know about those things.
Yeah. So that's what I'm basing all of this off of because I do know from taking anatomy classes and microbiome classes and all this stuff is that depending on the flora that's in your gut is what it makes you feel certain emotions.
Right.
Certain things. Like
okay.
All the time.
Well, speaking of probiotics, I know that there are lots of dog foods that actually bake in the probiotics. Now, what do you think is the problem with baking in your probiotics?
It dies.
Yep.
I mean, but yeah, that's a duh because anything that goes.
Well, it may not be initially baked in, but they probably like sprinkled some powder and just shook it up after production. But a lot of these guys were probably dead to begin with.
Okay.
And then when you actually open up your bag, they're still dead.
So that has no value then. Okay.
Well, there was one dog food that claims to actually have, some sort of guarantee that your probiotics are going to be live, period. That is actually that thing that my friend Blair was actually talking about. It is Life's Abundance. I don't think you've actually heard about that one. Apparently, Life's Abundance has actually had a good reputation. They really haven't been recalled for any reason, so it's actually, pretty good. At least one of my clients had actually started their dog off on that, and they're like totally happy with it. And at one point, I was thinking maybe, just maybe, it would be something that makes her list. Now, the only thing that I just kind of hedged on was just not knowing where our meat source is coming from. I mean, I'm sure that they probably have an explanation for that, but then again, maybe they don't. I don't know.
So are you saying that they actually put in their probiotics inside of the food, or is it that they sell it differently, like how it?
It's in their food, but they must have a process that's just a little different.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say solid gold, by the way.
Well, solid gold is very good food, by the way.
Yeah.
But they also do have they also do have supplements too.
Yeah, and that's why I thought you were gonna say solid gold, but then you said this one, and I was like, yeah, I've never heard of this.
Well, solid gold is good. So I mean, if you hear your clients say, "I put my dog on solid gold," just go with it. But once again, I still don't know where their meat source is coming from, so I'd have to do more research.
I do know their lamb comes from New Zealand, or wherever that one place that has all the lambs.
You're making me hungry.
I'm sorry.
You know I like New Zealand lambs.
I don't like lamb, so.
And there you go. You're just making me hungry.
If anything, it's turning me away from eating. I've only had lamb once in my life.
It just really depends on how the lamb was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a lamb with the stinky lamb, you're probably not going to like it very much.
I've had goat cheese, and goat cheese It smells. No, it tastes how it smells. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it tastes how it smells.
Gamey.
Sure. It tastes like goat.
Well, good lamb is not gamey, or it's mildly gamey, just like only this much. But I do cheat a little bit. Sometimes I'll just go straight for, the mint sauce, the mint jelly. You put mint jelly on
mint jelly.
Put mint jelly on your lamb, and it just basically melts in your mouth. Although I did cheat also with when Outback Steakhouse used to do it. I love their sauce.
I thought she said mint jelly, and I thought she was like indicating that it was in the middle of the lamb, and it's just all the juices.
Well, now that's disgusting.
That's what I was thinking.
Mint. The tea.
Okay.
By the way, mints are really good. Sorry, not mints. Lambs are. Stop it. Lambs actually have a lot of. Let's see. I think it has a lot of omega-3 for what it is. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important. But I do believe that it also has a lot of vitamin E, which is also good for your skin.
And that's lamb.
Yeah.
Like the protein.
Yeah. Believe it or not, they classify lambs as being sort of a lean meat, even though I don't really look at it and see lean.
All I know is Annie liked lamb before I changed her over to kangaroo. That's it.
How does she like the kangaroo?
She loved it. She did really well on it. She gained a lot of weight when I put her on the kangaroo formula.
Well, you do know that those kangaroos are like superhuman, right?
Probably. I will give Signature kangaroo formula those props, because within like a week that I started feeding Annie their kangaroo formula, her weight was like, I don't know if you remember seeing her, she was like skin and bones, and it was like kind of weird and sad looking. And then towards the end of her life, when I was just feeding her these kangaroo formula, she was just a healthy weight for the remainder of her life. So.
You give like one meal to Iris, and she probably would have just blown up.
Probably.
Well, I bet it was the buff kangaroos.
Maybe. Because I know when I was giving her the Natural Balance lamb and something formula, lamb and potato, something, I don't know what it was. And she did okay on it, and I still put in all her supplements and blah, 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 blah. But I did notice that she would remain with that really, really, like, skinny, sickly looking, and people would tell me it's just because she's old, and I'm like, well, she's not that old, for her to look like this. She's not 17, she was just like 10, 11, 12 when I was feeding her that stuff. And then I found their kangaroo formula, and I know that Natural Balance also had a kangaroo formula, but it wasn't in a wet food version.
Oh,
it was in their dry kibble.
Okay.
Yeah, and she couldn't eat dry kibble because she had no teeth. So
maybe that was the problem.
What?
Wait, the lamb formula that you gave her was in a can, correct?
It was in a can.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe.
I also started feeding her tripe, elk tripe and bison tripe, and that also boosted her weight.
I can see that.
And you think tripe, kangaroo, man, you're going all out, but no, like they actually made a huge difference in her diet, like. In her appearance, she had more energy. She had more. Her skin looked better. She didn't look sickly. It's
probably also better quality meat.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the Natural Balance, I'd definitely go with the Signature.
I mean, these days, I don't know. I don't know so much about what Natural Balance is doing. I mean, it used to be okay, but I guess. Who owns Natural Balance now again? Is it like Procter and Gamble or something like that?
I can look it up. I didn't even know
Procter and Gamble. It's not. I don't think it's Mars. Because they're not their own entity.
Natural Balance. Um, Dick Van Patten's Natural Balance. Natural Balance Pet Food Incorporated.
Okay.
Terms. J.M. Smuckers.
Oh, Smuckers.
Ew. Ew. That's where I get my jelly from.
I know.
That's kind
Maybe
of.
they have some mint jelly for you now.
They have a mid jelly now. Okay.
Anyway, I'm sure that signature, I think they're actually considered an import, right?
Yes.
That probably explains everything.
Canada? I thought they were Canadian.
They might be Canadian.
I remember the girl at the pet shop that I first started. She was like, "It's a Canadian food," and I was like, "Okay, cool." Let me triple check. I think that's what she told us.
It probably is.
But yeah, no. Sorry. I know we got off track, but
I'm still trying to figure out how to get back on.
Oh, okay. So we were talking about lamb and how it was another source of lean meat.
Well, anyway, speaking of any type of meat that you see over here, and it probably has a whole lot to do with, what kind of meat you're actually feeding your animal. I know that one of the reasons that chickens are not hypoallergenic for a lot of dogs, it's only because the omega-6, omega-3 ratio is really terrible. Omega-6s are actually responsible for a little bit of healing, but it does actually do some damage if you have them in too large an amount. Most dog foods that you see over there are going to have a disproportionate ratio of omega-6s versus omega-3s. And the higher your omega-6 content is, the more your dog, or even cat, they're actually not going to do very well on their food.
So what is omega-6?
Omega-6 is actually another fatty acid that is necessary for, healing and growth for a dog. Okay. But it can't be used in excess.
And is this why they can develop allergies? Because Annie had a chicken allergy and a beef allergy.
Beef is usually a little bit better, but it's still pretty high.
I thought it was from genetics.
It can be genetic, but it is also, whatever is feeding the genetics.
Gotcha.
So if you're already susceptible to even being allergic, your dog food is probably not helping.
Yes. Because just to not risk Scarlet, I never fed her chicken. Maybe once, because I was probably...
Even turkey can be a little bit too allergenic as well, because their omega-6, omega-3 ratio is pretty high as well.
Okay.
I think ducks are pretty bad too.
Oh man, really? I think.
But
I would give duck.
I think they may. Well, I'd have to look this up, but it may be just a little bit better. Than either one of those two.
Either turkey or chicken. Okay. I thought it was the more exotic the meat was, the better it was for the animal.
Probably the reasoning behind that is that they're more grazing. They actually forage or graze.
Okay, instead of being fed whatever the heck we formulate and give them, right?
So a lot of our feeds, especially for the chickens, are actually consisting of corn and soy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you actually get a little additional fish, which some dogs are naturally allergic to. I mean, you would actually think that we have salmon and, well, I don't think anybody does a tuna unless you're actually a cat, and even then that's still a little bit bad. Sometimes for these dogs, maybe they're actually not really all about the fish, and they kind of, get allergic to that too. So if you actually feed that in the feed, then your dog is going to, I guess, inadvertently be fed fish, which can actually, strike up an allergy.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought the entire time, or ever since I've started working, when I worked at Petco, and I actually got educated on their foods, and I thought, like I said, the more exotic, the more not common the protein is, and that isn't exposed to these animals genetically or just, right there is better for them.
Right.
But you said not necessarily.
Well, I will tell you this. Elk has probably one of the best omega-6 to omega-3 ratios out there.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty much almost like a 3-to-1 or a 2-to-1 ratio, which is as close as you can get to being ideal. I mean, if it were literally a 1-to-1, then that's perfect, but it's a little harder to actually achieve that perfect ratio. Okay. So you just go for the next best. Elk, sometimes venison can actually work pretty well. I won't poo-poo beef because it's still a whole darn lot better than chicken or any of your fowl. But beef and bison, probably in the similar range. Actually, you know what? I'm also not going to totally exclude all of your fowl. If you actually want to consider ostrich and emu fowl, then yeah, they actually have pretty good 6-to-3 ratios.
I've had ostrich jerky before. That was weird, but I've never fed my animals ostrich.
You should. It's pretty good.
I don't even think I've ever seen a formula where you can feed them ostrich.
Well, if you actually go to the people who work with North Star bison or even Blackwing, where I get all of my meats, by the way, they will actually have dog food versions of those birds too. Okay. I see more of the emu though, just because they're a little bit more abundant.
Well, yeah, and they're more common, I guess.
All right, Sky, go do your thing. Yeah, but you should try it. I mean, their ratio is actually pretty good for what it is. I think it's like a 3-to-1 ratio for the 6-to-3.
For the emu.
Okay. Now their meat, it's probably a little bit more like a duck's than it is a chicken's. So if you actually, ever crave a really cool steak that's not a beef or a bison, you should try an ostrich. And it has to be a certain. It needs to be a certain part of the ostrich too, by the way.
The leg? I mean, that's the only place I could think of.
No, actually, there's like this place like right behind the wing or something like that.
Breast?
Well, I'm not so sure about breast, but it's probably in this region somewhere. It's good. I should actually make some for you guys next time.
Okay. You make? Oh, okay.
I will make ostrich.
I'm okay. Ms. Vivian, that's probably the only food that I'll ever say, no, thank you. Thank you.
You don't know what you're missing, Cindy.
I know. See, I tend to stay away from these exotic meats.
So, if I just cooked it up and told you it was a steak and didn't tell you what kind of steak it was.
If you say it like that, I won't eat it. If you say it's steak, but you don't specify, like you don't even tell me that it's just steak.
Well, people assume that steak is from a land animal like that.
Like a bovine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I assume. That's what I'm saying. But if you were to after I eat it and you were to say, by the way, that's ostrich, I'd probably be okay. Probably never again, but okay. I don't even do duck. I don't even eat duck. I'll eat the most I eat is chicken, beef, pork, and fish.
Oh, Cindy.
Yeah, sorry. I can't do exotic protein. I can give my dogs exotic protein.
All right. Well, you know what, Cindy? I'm gonna lump you in with Paul on this one. You two are so unadventurous.
Well, I've had alligator before.
Well, alligator. After a while, alligator just kind of says, all right, well, it's alligator or whatever.
It's chicken, basically.
Chicken with a little swamp flavor.
Yeah, but no, I won't be able to do, I can't do lamb. Like I said, I was force-fed lamb once, and it was a little piece, and I just said, no, please don't. I didn't like goat cheese, so I'm just not. I have had birria, which is the the not beef tacos, those famous tacos that are made out of goat head meat.
Now that one I'm not so sure.
It's actually really good, but you do taste that goat flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of gross, but you know, when you dunk it in that, you know what a birria taco is, right?
I don't think I've experienced one
Oh
before.
man, you know what? I gotta take you now. Birria. There's those tacos that you see on the internet where they're like, you know, they look so yummy, and then you dunk them in that sauce thing.
It looks like a little dunk. Well, from my perspective, it looks like a little.
So good. See what?
Looks like a little hot pocket.
It's so good. There's this one place called Tacos something. I can't remember. They sell birria tacos. They're really good. Sorry.
By the way, tacos are not on the dog's list of things to eat.
I beg to differ. The one dog that I found by the taco truck, I gave him 5 tacos and he ate it. No problem.
That's also like Paul giving my dog an entire what was it, a barbecue plate?
Or Paul giving Lisa some jerky, and I told him no.
Oh, you know what? He'd just go behind her back and give her one anyway.
No, actually, jerky's really bad for cats.
I know it is.
Like, it could kill them. Like.
Well, he spat one at Iris one time, so she ate it.
Yeah, I think if it's like a continuous thing, it would make them bad. But the reason why I looked this up was because the Lowe's cat that we found, the people at Lowe's bought a bag of jerky and fed it to the cat.
And it died.
It did not die, but I looked it up and they were like, please do not feed cats jerky. It's very toxic to them. And I was like, everybody, give me that bag of jerky. We're not feeding cats jerky anymore.
I think it just really depends on what's on the jerky, because my jerkies are 2 meat jerkies. So I would have the muscle meat and then I would add 1 organ to it.
I think it's from like
the sauces and the spices and whatever, but they smoke theirs too.
Mm-hmm.
Smoking is not good.
But I was gonna say for an animal, because I love smoked meat, so
I can do without smoke. That's just me.
Okay.
All right, so we've actually listed the whole 6-to-3 ratio. Once again, you know, you want to get as close to 1-to-1 as much as possible. And, you know, if you even with these animals, you do kind of want to like be very careful with your proportions. You can actually, you know, just kind of throw some vegetables at your dog to balance it all out. Yeah.
What about the people that feed raw and don't give vegetables? Because I saw a video the other day of this lady giving her cane corn, so like beef liver and an oxtail and a turkey neck and blah blah, and she put a couple of powders of like whatever, but no veggies.
It sounds like she must have thrown some vitamins on it.
Okay, so as long as the vitamins were there.
Yeah, but that's still a lot of meat.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of meat.
She's like, feeding my cane corn. It's a TikTok. She's like, feeding my 9-month-old cane corso. And
I'm going back to that little thing about how, you know, you have a very high protein content. You may actually have a somewhat messed up dog.
Okay. Okay, but what about, but about raw? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it depending on the situation?
My idea on raw is that, you know, if your dog is actually very healthy, then any type of raw should be fine. I don't have a problem with raw, but of course I sometimes wonder about where the meat is or has been. That cannot all be in one day.
Beef and a pound of turkey gizzards, which is anywhere between 6 to 8.
She did.
Then I'm going to take 2 turkey necks,
like,
and that is going to be
up, right?
10% bone that he needs in his diet.
Yeah,
5% of his diet is liver, and the other 5% of organ meat is kidney.
Like, I thought that was excessive, right?
And this is a little over 2 pounds. Lastly, I gave him a few carrots, some pumpkin.
Well, there are
the seasoning, like being on top of all of it, is the flaxseed.
Seasoning?
Or vegetables.
Now I guess enjoy. Zaro, speak. Good boy. Okay, good boy.
Okay, so so sorry, I just had to show you. So raw feeding, how does that?
Well, the benefits of raw feeding is that you don't degrade anything. You know,
Okay.
you can't degrade it through cooking, and most of the time it's really, really fresh.
So dogs do like raw food. Like I thought it was like
Some of them do.
okay.
I think yours didn't.
Annie did not like freeze dried.
Okay, so that's actually different.
Yeah, she didn't like the because I gave her the Stella and Chewy's or whatever the heck. Like.
Well, you know, some dogs are not very partial to the texture because it does feel like you're sucking up a whole bunch of whatever liquid is left in your mouth and dries it out. But you know, I'm cool with freeze dried just as long as it's actually gone through a little bit of a sanitation process. I know that actually goes against what true raw feeders want to see, but you know, a little bit of sanitation of the meat, if done with the correct way, it's actually pretty healthy.
And by sanitation, you mean like cooking?
No.
Like
for instance,
under it? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Although some people have tried a little mixture.
No.
Okay,
sorry, I'm just kidding.
So the type of the type of sanitation that I would have gone through is this electrolyzed water. You know, they actually do use that. Actually, I have a little machine that makes that stuff.
Electrolyzed water?
Yeah. So what you do is you get, you know, you can use tap water, but sometimes I use bottled water. I stick it in the machine, add a little bit of salt to it and a little bit of vinegar, zap it for a few minutes, and then it's all good to go.
Can't you just clean it with vinegar? That's what I would do. That's how I clean my meat.
This one's a little bit more, it will kill more things.
Okay.
I mean, you can do the vinegar thing if you want, but this one's actually nice and it tastes less like vinegar.
That's how I clean my meat is through vinegar.
You
pour a bunch of vinegar.
You can do vinegar. I usually do that on my vegetables, but I like this method a lot better.
My vegetables are water.
I will sanitize my vegetables. But yeah, you know, those are fine, but I know that there are some purists out there, and that's okay. Once again, just as long as the dog's healthy, it's not so bad. But of course, if they do have dogs who are low suspect, they might actually give them a probiotic to strengthen up the stomach and then start, you know, giving them little bits. But then there are others that, yeah, you're so cute. She's like, stop it, Cindy, stop it. But yeah, you know, raw is not for everyone because once again, it does have pathogens on it. So if you're not very good at cleaning stuff, then I probably would say,
but
try something that's a little bit more human friendly.
But feeding raw doesn't take any nutritional value away. Like you said, it's just
only if you don't know how to put things together. Because that's the only reason that people shy away from it. They don't have the proportions correct.
Okay.
And so when you do that, then yes, you do actually end up depriving your dog of some of the essentials that you would actually see in a balanced meal. So, you know, if you were to make your own thing, it doesn't really have the benefits of having been studied by, and this is going to be, you know, something that you see, the AAFCO. Please don't, yeah, AAFCO. Yeah, they're the ones who actually determine, you know, what, them and the FDA, they actually determine exactly, you know, what can be inside thing.
But what can be inside the thing, you know, the FDA is a government, blah, 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 and the AFCO is also a government, blah, blah, blah. Like, do we really know?
I'm digging even deeper.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know.
There's also the USDA.
Even worse.
They're all working together.
Okay, so
I mean, these guys will actually regulate what your dog can or cannot have. You know,
what do you
inside
mean regulate? You can't regulate a diet. It's what you even when you're feeding raw.
Okay, your state will also regulate what's inside your stuff too. I have to submit a listing to the guys over at A&M
That's
to
because,
verify my stuff.
but that's because you're selling it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't actually sell it, then yes, you don't always know what you do need. Okay, well, anyway, they probably don't either. So
Well,
yeah,
okay,
I know.
I'm sorry, I'm taking it too far. I know, but like, do they really know? Like,
You know, they do studies. Some of them are dry studies that actually just go into a lab and then you just have to guess there. And then there are others where you do get a whole bunch of dogs, have them tested out and see how their progress is, and then just kind of work with that.
okay,
So there is lab testing that does go on with some of these foods just to see if everything's like considered well balanced.
okay. Not that they really know, but yeah, okay.
Well, they'll verify the minimal amount of whatever to make sure that your dog is still able to thrive. I think that's really what they're all about.
Okay.
They may not have ideal, but they will give you the minimal value.
Okay. Yes.
Well, speaking of fish oil, for instance, or the omegas, once again, baking it into the food can be problematic because if you add it and it sits there, then it degrades. So if you think about it, fats are the first thing to go after production. So when you see fish oils and stuff like that being put into your kibble, unless it's actually like absolutely fresh, you're going to see that it's going to start tasting a little weird. Now they do actually try to vacuum pack these things so it makes it last a little longer. But even then, it can only do so much. So that's why it's actually very important to get rid of those guys as quickly as possible so you don't end up with rancid food.
So you're talking about fish oils.
Fish oils that are built into the food.
Oh, built into the food, but not standalone, like the bottle.
You still have to
or
store
the capsules.
You do still have to store those correctly. Or else, once again, you run into the rancid problem.
Okay. That's good to know. So, like, the bottle of fish oil that I still have is probably bad, huh? Just kidding, I don't know. That I've had since 2016.
Well, by then you would probably kill your dog.
I'm just kidding, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so good to know. So then do follow the expiration dates on those types of things, supplements.
You should,
Okay.
or else you're not going to get a very good product and your dog will hate you forever.
Well, she still ate it, so.
Okay. Let me see. There are other things that we do need to discuss here. So we've actually gone over the amino acids. There are 10 essential amino acids that your dog should actually have in some form or another. So once again, they cannot produce these or they don't produce enough of it. So you actually have to go back in there and supplement it. You can do that through vitamins or you can do that the natural way by just giving them the actual thing that contains whatever it is that you're trying to do. Omega-3s versus omega-6s, we've discussed exactly why having the correct proportion is actually important. Once again, there is actually an inflammatory response that happens when you feed too much omega-6s. Do your research on your animals, but usually the bigger land animals will have less of a problem than your birds will because people are really bad about how they fatten up their birds. If you did have a skinny chicken, however, it's easier. Actually, you know what? There is one place that does do the more balanced chicken. Ever heard of Swanker's meat?
I was gonna say Eggland's best.
Slankers Meat is actually a farm somewhere near Dallas, I think. And they tout an omega chicken. Now, omega eggs do exist.
Would you say an omega chicken?
Yeah, omega-3 chicken, actually. Omega-3 chickens. They also make omega-3 turkeys, too.
Like, do they look any different?
They might be a little skinnier, but that's on purpose. You don't want a fat one because they don't taste as good, for one thing. But secondly, the fatter you are, the tendency here is that you're not so healthy.
So that is also true for human consumption then. You do want to eat these omega-3 chickens instead of the normal. I hate Tyson, by the way, so I will never eat Tyson. But let's say Tyson, because that's the #1 chicken producer here in the United States. So
yeah, I wouldn't do them either.
Okay. I'm glad you're telling me this, because now I can know where to go for my chicken.
They'll ship to you, by the way.
I'm looking at that.
I get their chicken hearts whenever they're available. Or actually, turkey hearts. Go with that.
Where to buy omega-3 chickens online?
They also do, they're not the only ones, but they do actually have a very accessible selection.
Now, will people complain? Well, this is on the people side.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as flavorful. Will they say that?
No.
Is it the same?
It tastes the same to me.
I will buy one chicken.
Actually,
and
you know what?
Test you on that.
Well, I kind of got a little bit greedy, and I actually ordered their chicken tails.
Like the little nubs?
Yeah.
No.
They taste really good. You fry those little nubs, and they taste delicious. They're like little chicken nuggets.
I hate the tail. Every time my mom makes a chicken, and I eat the tail, I was like, no.
Oh, you have to fillet the tail. Don't actually eat it as is, or else you will eat bone. God, Cindy.
Okay.
So, in case you actually want to see where your poultry is coming from, Alicia, you might actually want to try out Slankers. You might actually
it says Purina Mills is making omega-3 chicken.
Purina, huh?
Purina, increasing omega-3 in chicken, I guess. I guess it's different, huh?
Increasing it the natural way, or actually doing it from a chicken?
You know Purina.
They probably extracted it.
Yeah.
Extractions are not nearly as good as if it were already built in.
Oh, it's just the eggs. It's not the actual meat.
By the way, they also do make soy-free and soy-free and corn-free chicken eggs.
So the chicken doesn't eat soy or corn. It's just a natural grass-fed chicken.
Mm-hmm. They're foragers.
I had grass-fed chickens. I never ate them, but I heard they were delicious. My mom didn't eat them either. They gave me to a neighbor. I was very sad, but they told me they were delicious.
You know, if you've ever seen an Indonesian chicken.
Those are really skinny ones that look kind of creepy.
Oh yeah. Those were good.
Are they called forest chickens or something like that? Isn't that a thing? That's a real thing.
Well, they're near enough of forest to actually make that happen.
Yeah, they're called jungle fowl.
Wow.
Looks
like a regular rooster.
Is that what you're talking about or no?
It's possible. I've never actually seen the chicken myself. But I know that when they actually, delivered it, it was like a spatchcock chicken. Oh. And it was delicious. Probably the most delicious chicken I'll ever find. Because American chickens, I don't know.
Well, American chickens, if you go with the popular or the big corporation brands or whatever, they just, like you said, they fatten them up.
And they taste bad.
They mass produce them. They want results in like 2 months so that they can like butcher them and send them off to get eaten, and that's unnatural. It's super unnatural for an animal to literally go from infant to fully grown animal in 2 months.
Some of them actually, do have the hormone thing going, That kind of fattens them up even faster.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
your regular chicken will actually be hormonal, and sometimes be antibiotic chicken too.
My chickens that I had here, that I was raising, it took like 10, 11 months for them to look fully grown and to actually produce eggs.
Mm.
It took them that long. And when I tasted the egg, it was different. And it looked different. It looked better than the egg you would buy at a grocery store.
Yep.
When I'm sure the chicken eggs that you have at the grocery store, like I said,
they're pale.
2 or 3 months, they're pale.
They're
gross.
kind of runny.
They're too big. Like my chicken eggs were like this big. Grocery store chicken eggs are like this big, and you're just
the
like
jumbo eggs.
I'm like, how this poor animal
must have been a big mother.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the chicken butcher farm up here that has decent sized chickens, but I still wouldn't trust them because I don't know what they'll feed their
yeah, I mean, even homegrown ones, they have what we call a proprietary blend that they feed them. So even though they may be homegrown, there's stuff in the feed that maybe you question.
I did all organic, and I actually started making my own feed with oats, eggshells for their grit, it was eggshells.
Bugs?
I did do a couple mealworms of
Okay.
the dried mealworms, and I think I put in some rice, probably not, and every so often I would give them a protein.
Okay.
I've seen my chickens chase down a lizard and eat it, so I'm sure they were fine with that part of their diet.
Well, some of these chickens actually kind of have, they say that they are foragers, but then they'll actually just add a little bit to their diet just to kind of keep things in balance.
Yeah, because my chickens mostly ate grass. They'll eat the grass. And my grass, by the way, it was so fertilized and well kept when I had my chickens back there because it was so green and luscious and pretty. And then, we had to get rid of them because they got bird mites and they got everywhere and they got out of control. And
that's sad.
Yeah, so, but my grass was so beautiful. And then we had to get rid of them. And then the chickens were
not happy.
Yeah.
Happy chickens.
But yeah, no, I read up on the different types of dietary needs that they needed, and so I just ended up making my own feed for them, I guess. The one weird one was eggshell, because they're like, make sure you put in eggshell for them, so it's good for their blah, blah, blah.
It's not unlike what we do sometimes with our other birds.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw in some eggshells to give them the calcium they need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of proprietary blends, probiotics. I know that we actually said that baking them in is not exactly a great way to introduce probiotics, and I wholeheartedly agree, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And even so, it's important to actually know what is in the proprietary blend. Sometimes they just don't tell you, and they say a whole bunch of lactobacilli and lactobacilli and the what is the other one? It starts with a B. Bifido, whatever. Okay, whatever.
You want to look it up? Bifido?
Yeah.
Bifido.
Like bifidococci or something.
Bifidobacterium. Bifido. They don't look like cocci. They look like bacillus.
Okay. The lactose and the bifidos, in other words, those are usually going to be your two specific, they're not species, they're like genii. I guess that's what you call it, genii. Yeah, those fun things. Show Alicia. Look at how pretty they are, by the way.
Yeah, it's under a electron microscope, I'm sure. Oh my god, the camera won't focus. We probably can't see it.
Anyway, they look like tiny little rods.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Or little pills or whatever you
Actually, if you look at my my Google Home thing, I have a bunch of slides of the mystery bacteria that I had to study.
Oh, wow.
It's really fun. It was a lot of fun.
So a lot of times when they do put these proprietary blends together, I mean, there are probably some that are actually pretty useful, but there's some where they actually had the human in mind, put those together and assumed that a dog could also do it too. Actually, you know what, dogs probably need a different blend of stuff. However, there are a couple of them that actually we do intake that they also do benefit from. So there's like this list of, actually, you know what? I did get this from the Dogs Naturally magazine. They actually had an article on the different types of probiotic and their specific function. Lactobacilli, a lot of them were actually, listed in the program. But from personal experiences, especially, after listening to this one seminar, I actually found that 2 of them are things that you should look at. For instance, if you actually look in our Progility Max, you're going to find the specific one. It's the Lactobacillus rhamnosus. And that's actually one. It tends to actually go really deep into the intestinal tract, and that's actually where you do all the digestion and form all those connections with the body. It actually absorbs in that area. Do it too quickly and it just goes straight out. Do it too low and it also goes straight out. So you want something that's actually really productive, pretty much in that midsection. So Lactobacillus rhamnosus is one, and the Enterococcus faecium, that's the other one. So the calm canine will actually have the latter, and that Enterococcus, that one is actually the same one that you see in fecal transplants for people with IBS and stuff like that.
How did I forget?
But they're both good because they will actually give you the results that you need. However, you don't have to actually forget about all the other ones because they do actually have their parts. It's just that they all colonize in different parts of the body, or at least they try to colonize in different parts of the body. So you do actually want the one part that actually, sits really well in the stomach, doesn't die after all that acid, and is able to actually transfer and able to convert whatever, thing that they need to create the neurotransmitters that you want, the ones that actually calm the dog down. So, yes, the calm canine has the Enterobacteria faecium, and it actually also has calming agents in it, whereas something like Fortiflora, made by Purina, that is just the probiotic itself. Oh, hi, Lusa. she just rubbed up against me. Hi. Yeah, I know. You're happy. But yes, you can use Fortiflora to actually supplement whatever dog food your dog actually is eating. By the way, let's actually talk a little bit about the different forms. So we did talk about the raw, which once again does have its benefits because you're getting the materials in its most natural form, most digestible form, getting all the vitamins and minerals. But of course, the thing about that is that, number one, it feels dirty and it might actually be dirty. And number two, you don't always have the benefit of knowing exactly how balanced your food is.
Mm-hmm.
You could say the same thing about home cooking as well, because sometimes you can, mix and match a recipe and then all of a sudden you don't have the correct balance that goes along with that. And of course, the correct balance is actually important because you don't have, you won't have the types of results that you need if you don't balance out the formula correctly. That can affect health, that can affect the way that your dog fights off infections or heals or even feels, like emotionally, all of that stuff. But there are recipes out there, and I do believe that there are, powders that you can also throw in there to once again make that balance. There is, I'm trying to remember the companies that actually make those little powders. I mean, we did mention Solid Gold, but I think that's actually only a partial supplement, whereas there are others that look like vitamins that are also available. I know that I believe that Petco has actually started selling this particular formula. I think it's called Just for Dogs. Just for Dogs, which is a California-based company.
Is it Just for Dogs?
Just for Dogs. Yeah, it's Just for Dogs. But they do also have a nutritionist that can be on call. So if you ever have any questions, you can,
really?
you could actually, subscribe to their service, and then you can say, hey, I need something to
Just for my dog.
Just for that dog. Yeah, they can actually help you balance out a formula, no matter what kind of dog type you have. If it's a healthy one, then their proprietary blend works. If it's one that has special needs, then they can probably tell you exactly what proportions that you can use to fulfill all those needs for that dog. Let's see. Now, of course, home cooked meals both raw and home cooked meals are great too, because you actually do end up with a little extra water in your diet too. Well,
okay.
Particularly if you actually boil your food, you'll actually get a pretty decent amount of water. And for some of our animals, they don't actually take in. Some of them don't actually choose to take in water the way that we think that they should.
I thought that was cats.
Well, that's cats too. Yeah, it's more like cats than it is dogs, but there are some dogs that I've seen who just don't.
Okay. All my dogs loved water, so I never had that problem.
Well, if your dog is dehydrated for any reason, like after an illness or such, then that's an easy way to actually get it in.
Okay.
And let's see, canned foods.
I like canned foods.
Canned foods have their benefits. Also very watery too.
Easy to chew. Easy to
chew, flavorful. And the canning process actually, does kill the bacteria before it gets to your dog, which it has to, or else you'll get botulism.
Yeah. I read about that one.
Yeah. Now, of course, one of its downfalls is that it's expensive per, unit. So you may think that it's like, oh, whatever, it's just a little can. But, if you think about it, take out all the water and you probably have like about 25% of what you actually started with.
You know what? I will get a dehydrator and test you on that.
Go ahead. It takes forever for me to dehydrate something that's a little wet.
Mm-hmm.
It probably takes me like about 4 or 5 hours, even when I turn them into little strips. It's just horrible.
No, but that makes sense. I thought it was more though. Like you'd have more stuff, and it'd be.
It looks bigger, but it's really not, because the water actually puffs everything up.
So then, okay, but I would say Annie ate better than when she was eating dry food or kibble,
which we will get to right now.
Okay.
Yeah, dry food, because it is cooked, in a way that everything evaporates. You lose a lot of vitamins and minerals that way.
Okay.
Whereas if you actually just boiled it, it may seep out of the actual product, but the water that gets trapped with the can, it probably has managed to at least save some of them. It still keeps them in its constituted form, even if it just gets sucked out of the animal itself.
Okay.
But yeah, the only reason that people do use dry is that it's convenient.
Okay, and it's cheaper
It's cheaper
generally.
because you don't waste as much. And you don't necessarily have to put a lot of whole animal in it.
Because you use
Meals.
whatever to make
You
it
have
to
meals. Yes, you have meals. Meals will actually kind of save the whole product. Because once again, if you think about what a meal is in any form, it's just dehydrated stuff.
When I think of meals, I'm thinking of like Thanksgiving meal or something.
Not that meal. Think of cornmeal.
Yeah.
Cornmeal. But anyway, it does actually kind of, once again, because it does last longer as a meal, it, kind of keeps down the waste, which is why they actually use it.
Then what about the brands of dog food that don't use corn, like the corn or the soy and all that stuff? Like,
well,
they
it
just
doesn't.
use something else to keep it together, or
Other grains.
okay.
Yeah, as long as you have some sort of
Paste.
Yeah, it's technically gluten. Gluten actually holds it all together. And I've always been very curious about how a gluten-free product stays together. Because it doesn't do it very well.
I've seen
Maybe it's by fat.
I've seen a gluten-free cake, carrot cake.
But that has a lot of oil in it, right?
No, I don't remember.
I know though, I mean, there were times where I actually made a carrot cake and it turned out oilier than I wanted it to be.
Okay. So the oils is what keeps it together.
The oils and whatever starch it can latch onto. I think so. But gluten is actually what keeps a lot of these things together, which is why it tastes so good and it feels really good in your mouth.
And that's why it's called gluten, and that's why we like glue when we're kids, because it's gluten and it's glue, and it's a conspiracy. Glue's made out of horse, no it's not.
Well, dogs can work on gluten, so unless they have some sort of weird disease, what's that disease where you can't have gluten? There's a disease. Celiac disease?
Is it celiac disease?
Or something like that.
Yes, gluten.
Unless you have celiac disease, you can actually eat any gluten you want. People do actually.
That sucks.
Now, of course, the thing about gluten is that it actually can fatten you up too. So,
Miss Vivian, do you like a little papaya? ¿Cómo le llaman? Sí,
papaya?
Do you like papaya?
My husband does.
Your husband is not here.
I know. I'm not a big fan of papayas, but I can still eat it.
Do you want some?
You want some or you want water?
I'll take a water.
Water?
Water's good.
I have a filter and I have a butter.
It'll probably be easier for me to get the bottle.
A butter, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Papayas.
I don't like papaya. Now I like papaya in smoothie form. That's it.
Well, the day we harvest with this papaya and mango, they put more mango in it than papaya, so it doesn't even matter to me. That's why it tastes better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Celiac disease.
Yeah, celiac disease.
Are you hungry? I have ¿Están grabando?
Yeah.
It's okay, Miss Maggie. It's okay. It's okay. This is only for my other trainer too. It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you.
No, déjala abierta for Lisa. My mom's a mom, so.
Yeah. I understand. That would be Paul's mom too.
Celiac disease.
Celiac
Gluten,
disease.
and it makes you fat. which
Yes.
is probably my issue.
So you want to go gluten-free then?
No. I love gluten.
It's a very horrible life.
I'm sure it is. And I could. I mean,
It's like me being vegan. Can't do.
I will try veganism for a week and then probably regret it.
Mm.
Uh-oh. I think
Yeah.
the dog's inside.
Ooh.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
here comes Lusa.
Oh, she's puffing up.
She is.
Okay. But yeah, you know, convenience factor of dry food. But of course, because it's dried and super cooked at high temperatures, you lose a lot. So they have to rely on vitamins to put it back all together. But honestly, when you deal with synthetic vitamins, half of them are in the wrong conformation. You know about levos and dextrose?
They sound very familiar, but no.
Okay, levos are left-handed and dextrose are right-handed. So if you actually think about how an enzyme works, for instance, they're going to have to do hand and glove kind of stuff, right? To make things happen. And of course, if you turn it around and say, hey, let's put a left hand in here when I only wear right hand, doesn't fit.
Gotcha.
So the same thing happens when you're dealing with vitamins too. When it's synthetically created, you're going to get your share of levos and dextrose. And that doesn't work very well, which is why you should go natural. I'm sure you love that one. Yeah, that's why people say, you know, if you can get it the natural way, it's a whole lot better, just because, you know, you don't have to deal with that stuff. And it's the same way with the dog. So, have I forgotten any forms?
Freeze-dried.
Freeze-dried. Okay. Believe it or not, freeze-drieds are actually pretty healthy. They're probably just as healthy as even a frozen. Frozen and freeze-dried are kind of like in the same category in terms of how you know, minerals and vitamins actually stick together. It's better than dehydrated, for instance, because dehydrated, especially when air dried, it just lets everything go. But if you freeze dry it, I don't know what it is about the process, but it keeps as much of the vitamins and minerals in its original form that you can think of. And if you kind of look at how things look after they're freeze dried, it's almost like there's no shrinkage, you know, whereas with dehydrated, it shrinks a lot.
Okay, then I gave Annie the dehydrated stuff because I remember they told me you add a certain amount of water and then it gets to a certain consistency or texture or something like that, and then she could eat it, and she just hated it. She did not want to eat it, and it smelled weird.
Maybe, yeah.
And it was a disc. There was like some disc ones, and then there's a little kibble-looking one that just turned into mush when you added water.
Yeah, that's the problem with that's the problem with you know, the freeze dried. Even though everything looks the same after you like put it in there, there's something about the texture or the taste that just, you know, it's off by a little bit. But I have seen them try to dehydrate steak, so.
So, question though, when you do freeze dried, do you have to feed them the same proportion as you would, like let's say, a kibble-based food?
Probably.
So then.
Oh wait, no.
Okay.
No.
Because they were telling me you feed less with freeze-dried than you do with a kibble. But do they get the exact same nutrition? I mean, they should, right? But like, will the dog feel as full or
well,
not?
It depends on what you dehydrated. I mean, if it's not dehydrated. Are we on dehydrated or freeze-dried?
Freeze-dried.
Okay. If we're on freeze-dried meats, for instance, once you actually, you know, just hand it over to your dog, you're going to know that you actually have a whole lot more protein than what you find in a kibble.
Okay.
Usually kibbles, even with the high protein kibbles, you're going to find that probably at least half of the kibble is made of meat. And then you get a whole bunch of other things to fill in the gaps.
But okay, so will a dog feel just as full with a quarter cup of freeze-dried compared to 3/4 of a cup of dog food or dry food?
Well, when you put it like that, then maybe.
Yes. So
yeah.
yes. Okay.
So if you actually do follow the directions on there, you're going to notice that you have so much less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that was my issue with Annie, was because they were like, oh, for her weight class, she just needs 3 kibbles. And I'm like, what? And, you know, and so I was like, but is she getting full off of this? Is she actually feeling
She
like
probably
satisfied?
did.
Okay.
She probably did.
Because I mean, I'm probably viewing it as a human.
It's more concentrated. Just think of it that way. Whereas a kibble, it's just kind of like a whole mash of stuff that may not actually be hard for the dog to digest.
Psychologically, the dog is like, what is this? It's 3 kibbles compared to the entire bowl of.
Well,
I'm thinking too
I
much
don't know.
into
You
it.
are thinking too much into it.
It's like the whole giant plate versus mini plate. If you feed somebody in a smaller plate, they're gonna think that they're fuller. But if you feed somebody in a giant plate, they're not gonna eat as much. What? Something like that. Psychology. Something I haven't taken.
I know where you're going with that.
Something I haven't taken in
It's
like
about
80 years
It's
now.
about
so.
the eyes and the imaging. And
Yeah.
just kind of
Well, okay. Do
all
dogs depend on that, or no? Doesn't matter. They're not that capable of.
Well, if they're fast eaters, they might.
Where's my food?
Exactly. But if you give them time, then they might actually start to feel it. It's almost like, you eat too much and then you don't feel it until like about 15 minutes later.
Yeah, when it's
like
like all
space it
absorbed
out.
in your gut.
That's
and
when you
stuff.
gotta space it out.
Okay.
Well, I guess as far as the benefits and the cost to all of these forms of food, I think I would still favor raw, just because. She likes wet food, I like raw. But once again, with the wet food, it's already, well, actually, I don't know how balanced wet food is.
Well, I did give Annie a whole different blend of everything. So, I mean, it wasn't just the single can. It was the can plus tripe plus salmon oil plus the pumpkin.
Okay. Oh, by the way, when you actually have balanced meals and you see people try to like throw in some more vitamins, your dog can actually develop vitaminosis, which can actually kill them. So be very careful when you put in supplements, because you need to have those balanced too.
Well, thanks, Miss Vivian. I gotta go back to my records and see what I was actually feeding in.
You know how our reps used to say, don't mix dog foods?
Yeah?
I think they were kind of hinting at that.
Well, they told me that the tripe was good for them. And it was
Tripe is good.
And it was a different brand of food. So.
Tripe is good for you.
Yeah. I don't know. It was like venison, bison, elk. Not the cow, because the cow was weird looking. It was by Pet Kind, by the way. I really like that brand.
Pet Kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really good. And then the local pet store that I went to in Kansas stopped selling them. So I had to find tripe from a different source.
Well, this is something that Sky should have also gotten from whatever videos she hopefully was reviewing. One of the reasons that I do Open Farm as well as Portland Pet Food Company is that they actually do work with their local farmers. It may not always be the answer to everything, but at least when you actually deal with smaller groups, then you do see that they take better care of their animals on a lot of occasions.
Yeah.
They're not all about mass production and stuff like that. And Open Farm is actually very concerned about how well their animals are treated. So they don't actually ever want to do something where, the animal has actually had all sorts of, crazy therapies done on it or whatnot. Portland Pet Food Company actually started out with their dog that they were trying to bring back to health. I mean, she was also an older dog, and they experimented on recipes to help this dog live longer. I think the dog had cancer, by the way. And they also work with their local farmers to, work through things. Now, Portland Pet Food Company is actually not considered a balanced meal type of people. That's why they actually say that their stuff is usually more for toppers, and just basic snacks. Whereas Open Farm, it is a balanced meal, and you will actually see that they just by necessity had to stick some vitamins in there. But when you just kind of look through the ingredients and just use that as a benchmark for what I think should actually be done in dog food if you're going to go that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good information to know for my next dog that I'm gonna get one of these days soon that my mom doesn't know of.
Now, of course, Alicia, I think you actually have, what was that dog food? There was another dog food that you were working with. I just can't remember what it is. That stuff is good too, but I do have to get more into the history of what's going on with that. Even your dog food actually has recyclable packaging, which is actually pretty important for us. So, but it is actually also from a big brand, so I just kind of have to be careful because I think Open Farm is still considered a small corporation. So, they're on top of things. That's what I like about them. Okay. Want to go over the anatomy real quick?
Sure. Head, knees, shoulders, and toes.
Anatomy of a dog.
We're gonna do both dog and cat or just dog?
Just dogs.
I think so.
We're going to concentrate on the dog just because you do actually have to dog training.
Here comes my baby. Girl.
Dog training.
See how much more relaxed she is, Karen?
Of course. She's here. See, Cindy, there's solid gold in here. See, they use that.
Oh, good. See?
Gluten-free food.
I thought it was gluten-free for the longest time.
Well, I don't know about that. But Solid Gold had actually been a very well-respected company, and I do still actually hold them in pretty high esteem just because I know about their beginnings as well. It was all about just treating the German Shepherds that this one person had correctly. So they couldn't find food that worked well with their dog until they formulated the stuff. And since then, I guess a whole bunch of German Shepherds has had the experience of enjoying really good food that actually helps them with their physique and all that. So, who is this?
It's a wolfhound.
Wolfhound. What does he have?
White.
He's coughing. At least that's what it said.
Kennel cough.
Now look at this defensive posture. Defensive. Where is he? I just missed him. Jeez. Okay, there's your culture. Bordetella. Why is there a raccoon in there? Oh, for the rabies. We already went through a core and non-core last time. Oh, nutrition and mental decline in older dogs.
That was Annie, for sure.
Oh, by the way, let's see. Forgot to talk about the DHA and EPAs and stuff like that. Yeah. DHA is actually very important for a lot of our dogs, especially our puppies, because it actually has a lot to do with brain development, but I also do think that it also has something to do with just basic connective tissue development. Yeah. Docahexin. So docosahexaenoic acid.
It's a complicated word. Yes. Docosahexaenoic acid.
I said it well enough.
She said it way better than me. Okay.
And EPA is like icosapentaenol, like acid or something.
I thought EPA as an environmental
No,
protection.
not that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, both are actually in there because it does help with brain development, but it actually does once again help with overall connective tissue or connective organ development as well. So you'll actually see that it works for the heart, works for the vessels. And I think that's mainly it. So cardiovascular and neural connections.
That was more. Those are important. So.
It also does seem, they haven't actually tested it on the adults, but I do believe that even if it's not brain related, it's basically everything else. And they may actually say that anything with DHA and the other stuff may also help our elderly dogs. Just as training might also help our elderly dogs stay at least lucid. Unlike the 18-year-old swamp monster who doesn't even know where he is half the time. I feel bad for him. My dad uses him as a footstool.
Poor thing.
Ooh, bacterial cystitis and urinary stones.
Ouch.
I bet you can guess exactly what problem that causes.
UTI?
UTIs? Well, eventually that evolves into
Kidney
a UTI.
failures?
Yeah. But training wise.
Oh.
Which reminds me, I need to call that guy again.
Potty training without knowing that they're going pottying?
Yep.
Uncontrollable pottying?
Uncontrollable pottying.
Annie had that. That's why I had to put like the 1,000.
Yeah.
It was like 4 of them, not 1,000. And then she would get confused and actually go into my bathroom and pee on the mat. She was also blind, so I mean, I can't blame her. I couldn't blame her at the end of her life.
I know. Oh, here we go. Sarcoptic and Demodex mange.
Okay, that's gross.
They're both gross.
They're not. People can't get them, right?
One of them, yeah. The sarcoptic, I believe, is transferable to humans.
Gross.
Yeah. Demodex is actually more of an immuno response. So it is actually still caused by a pathogen. It's just that they burrow in a certain part that doesn't ever leave that area. And yes, they are not considered contagious. So even if you have a Demodex dog, you can still allow them in class.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna ask something, but I forgot. But Demodex is, I've seen that a lot, so.
I've seen it in my puppies. They'll have these little bald spots.
I think Annie had some. No, she didn't. They tested her for some, and she didn't end up having, because she was losing hair.
You remember a ringworm incident? How did we get ringworm?
I can't believe you remember that. Were you also involved? Because I remember getting it from the stupid cat, and it developed like right here.
I had ringworm on my arm.
And then I had to tell my customers, hey, I can't train because I have ringworm.
I just was like, you know what? Just slap a Band-Aid on it. We'll keep going.
I literally told my people, no, don't come in because these stupid cats gave me ringworm, and I had this nasty little patch there, and it was, well, look, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering.
Yeah, it was not my favorite time.
It was so gross.
It was not my favorite time, but I still trained. I just was like, well,
I didn't. I told
I'm doing the Lotrimin and all that stuff, so eventually it'll go away. Slap a Band-Aid on it, nobody knows anything.
I told my one customer, I remember.
Your one customer?
No. Well, I had people, but I told the one, I was like, oh, hey, by the way, I got a little ringworm here. She goes, oh, I'll leave. And then that was kind of what told me to just say, you know what, everyone else, hey, give me about a week or two and we'll continue our classes.
Well, I remember when there was some sort of ringworm scare that happened when I was still in Sugarland. And apparently I just sat there and I was like, Alright, let's see, I clean this up. So I made some bleach solution and put UV light and crap like that all over the back wall of my training area. My training area was really small.
I don't remember Sugarland's layout, so.
It's now a cat room. It used to be a bird room. Then they cleaned it out for me, and then as soon as I left, that thing was converted to a cat room. I was like, thanks, guys. Is that a problem?
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, once again, back to the thing. Where am I? Canine genetics. Why am I not?
I have 237 gigabytes free, so should be good.
So Alicia probably knows this, but I'm not so sure if I've ever told you this. Did I ever discuss with you how a dog's environment can actually affect their genetics?
Yes. Well, I don't think we've had this discussion, but I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Basically, whatever experiences the dad or the mom actually has, it gets included into their genetic makeup, and then it gets passed on to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a whole bunch of skittish dogs, it gets worse.
Yeah, but okay, but like, I mean, that makes sense though. Like, you can pass, if the dog is afraid themselves and then they have pups, then they'll be afraid as well. Or they can be because they have no better example.
And then you have to sit here and desensitize so that the next generation doesn't hopefully get crazy like them too. Here we go. So right now I'm not quite sure why I'm actually doing this one. Is this thing even still on?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, just checking. I'm not quite sure why we're actually talking about canine anatomy, but there may be something important about this. So I don't know if you can see it, but what I can do is actually make a copy of it at some point. Amazing. This thing's actually, we're in reverse with the camera. Camera's catching this just exactly as it should be. Am I?
I'll get closer now.
Oh my gosh, look at that. It's not a mirror image.
No.
Okay, that's weird. I just don't think that can happen. Magic of the phone. Okay, so I guess we're pretty familiar with most of the stuff over here. We did actually mention a brisket.
Yum. Not in dogs, though.
Brisket's pretty much this area right here. Yeah, I know about the pastern, which is like on the back side of the paw. Yes, they have elbows. That looks a little high for a belly.
I thought the belly was here.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Stifle, thigh, hock, haw. Okay, pastern and hock, rump. I don't think the last one actually had croup. Croup is literally the base of the tail. Here we go. Brisket and loin.
Yum.
Brisket, loin. So literally on both ends we're talking about the insides, you know, the insides of the legs. I think everything else makes sense. The flu. flu area right
Does
there.
he have the flu?
Mm. Flu.
I thought those were jowls.
I guess they call them flus in here then. We'll make you a handout on this if necessary, but it's actually a very well put together one. So with cats, did you actually know that they ate with their smell?
What? They ate what they smell?
They eat with their smell. You even know what that means?
No.
The cat will only eat something, you know, if it thinks it smells delicious. They don't care really how it tastes. They just want to know how it smells.
Okay. So explain to me why then Lufa doesn't like pate or morsels I came to discover yesterday, but likes to eat flaked and minced food.
Texture? Still not taste though. And this is actually still the same flavor, right?
Well, here, I'm gonna show you. Okay, so I mixed the flaked stuff with the morsels, and she just ate the flakes and left all the morsels.
She likes texture.
What a weirdo. You're such a
Well, didn't Annie like texture?
weirdo. Annie did not care about texture.
She she ate with her smell too. Yeah, apparently our, a sense of taste is probably greater than a dog's is, but of course our sense of smell is nothing compared to what a dog's might be. And of course her eyes are probably all better than mine right now. So, a dog's sense of smell is 10,000 to 100,000 times more accurate than a human's.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 300 million olfactory receptors versus 6 million in a human's. So that accounts for a lot. Oh. Their nostril sizes and distance apart enable them to inhale from 2 distinct areas of space. I did not know that. So that makes sense. Dogs have a scent organ that humans do not. I thought we actually did have a vomeronasal organ. Actually, we have what's called a vomer. It's in here somewhere. But apparently there's another organ in there. They detect pheromones. Of course they do. Okay.
Can we detect pheromones?
No.
Debatable.
Well, it is debatable. I know I can't detect any pheromones for my life.
Some child.
Some dogs are bred to gather scent, such as basset hounds and bloodhounds. Their long hanging ears and skin disturb and gather scent. Oh, is that what that's really for?
Their
They use
ears?
it as fans.
Yeah, they go.
Because of their extraordinary ability, dogs have been trained to use their sense of smell to identify low blood pressure, seizures, and cancers in humans, as well as gluten.
Is that why you feed them gluten-free foods? So that they don't get confused with eating gluten-based foods?
That's certainly a thought. Anyway, training tip. Dogs need to use their sense of smell, which is why it's so important for them to sniff during walks.
But what if it's excessive, like with the beagles or all the hounds and stuff?
Stuff their noses with cotton.
Did you hear what she said? That's usually my comment, but she's the one that said it this time.
Put them in a low set area if you can, or make them actually look for make them look for a scent. If they don't smell it on the walk, then they won't be spending all their time sticking their noses in the ground. They can sniff the air. That's totally fine.
This is what's holding up.
Yeah, make them do setting classes.
Okay. I'm trying to make space here for you.
Okay.
Most of these are from my recordings. Actually, one of them's a whole dissection. If you want to see the dissection notes.
Alright, I'll watch the dissection.
Oh, well. Not right now.
Dogs experience echolocation. Of course they do. That's why they're irritable. Dogs' desire for meat is due to their tongues. They have more receptors for meat and meat chemicals and fat than they do for anything else.